Distracted driving has gained national attention recently. According to the federal DOT, distracted driving is defined as any activity that could divert a person's attention away from the primary task of driving. As a professional driver, you know all too well that there are diversions that can compromise your ability to drive safely. You know it's risky to attend to things like checking freight bills, consulting a map while driving, or checking your phone. But there are other causes of distraction, as well as distracted drivers to worry about. Traffic safety experts identify three kinds of distractions: manual distractions, visual distractions, and cognitive distractions. Manual distractions are those where you move your hands away from the task of controlling the vehicle. Reaching for your thermos and pouring yourself a cup of coffee is an example of a manual distraction. Visual distractions are those where you focus your eyes away from the road. You drop your thermos, and when it spills all over the floor of your truck, you look down at the mess on the floor. That's a visual distraction. A cognitive distraction is where your mind wanders away from the task of driving. You start to consider, where can you refill your thermos somewhere down the highway? And what stores might be open at this time of night? You're no longer paying attention to the essential job of driving, and that's a cognitive distraction. In 2015 alone, 3,477 people were killed and 391,000 were injured in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. Texting is the most alarming distraction. Sending or reading a text takes your eyes off the road for 5 seconds. At 55 miles an hour, that's like driving the length of an entire football field with your eyes closed. During daylight hours, approximately 660,000 drivers are using cell phones while driving. That creates enormous potential for deaths and injuries on U.S. roads. Teens were the largest age group reported as distracted at the time of a fatal crash. You can only drive safely when the task of driving has your full attention. Any non-driving activity you engage in is a potential distraction and increases your risk of an accident. A study on the subject of driving distraction done by the University of North Carolina Highway Safety Research Center states that of the 284,000 drivers involved in serious highway crashes in 1 year, nearly 16% were not paying attention and over 8% were distracted by something inside or outside the vehicle. Even a hands-free cell phone should only be used to acknowledge an incoming call and inform the caller that you'll get back to them when the truck is parked. It is not recommended you pull over and stop your vehicle on the shoulder of a highway, as you'll become a distraction and potential safety hazard to other drivers. Even with hands-free devices, cell phones are distracting when you're finding numbers or dialing. Try to remember that it's not what's happening in your hands that's distracting you. It's what's happening in your brain. You should never engage in text messaging or surfing the internet while you're driving. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration conducted a study of commercial vehicle crashes in 2009. They concluded that text messaging creates a crash risk 23 times greater than driving without distraction. The use of a handheld cell phone while driving is prohibited in many states. Remember, one of the first things an officer will do at the scene of an accident is determine if you were on your cell phone or not. We recognize that CB channels are useful for weather and traffic conditions. However, use caution when using a CB radio and stay focused on driving safely. Remember, if a collision occurs as a result of a distraction due to any type of a device, it will be considered an automatic preventable collision. Many companies use Qualcomm or similar type devices for regular communication, and this form of communication is preferred. Cell phone use for company communication is not encouraged. There are certain situations when all distractive electronic devices should be turned off. One situation is in areas of very slow and congested traffic. A high level of concentration is required, and you need to be able to hear vehicle horns, emergency vehicles, backup warning beepers from equipment, and so on. The same is true when you're backing. In any high-risk or highly unfamiliar situation, you should have all phones stowed and all sound devices turned off. It is also recommended that you have a window open so you can hear if someone shouts out a warning. Distractions outside the vehicle may be a little harder to control. Some diversions may be interesting, and you can't be alert to surroundings for hazards while paying attention to diversions. Construction areas and vehicle accidents are inherently distracting. Driving in a work zone or near an accident scene can also be confusing and frustrating, thus requiring a high level of attention to driving safety. A quick glance is okay and may help you decide whether there's a hazard. A long gaze means your eyes are not scanning the surroundings as they should be and causing the driver to be distracted. In addition to these distractions, there's another source that should be added to the list: the way you feel. If you're sleepy, fatigued, hungry, or upset, it's likely that you're going to find it difficult to stay alert and focused. Get plenty of rest, keep a regular meal schedule, and learn to turn off thoughts of various personal problems when driving. Eating is best done at break time. The cab is not a good place for eating or drinking. These are major causes of distraction, especially if the driver drops food or spills a beverage. Liquid in cups without no-spill lids or foods that require utensils or just break apart or crumble are especially inappropriate. If you drop something, whether it's food or some other object, wait till you stop to pick it up. Temper flare-ups are major sources of distraction, even if they're not violent enough to qualify as road rage. If another driver is being unreasonable or is driving badly, remember, you're not a party to somebody else being an offender, and you can't cure the condition for them. Maybe that other person's just distracted. Other drivers, especially non-professionals, are more likely to be a cause of distracted driver hazard than you are. If someone is driving illogically or erratically, he or she may be distracted or impaired. Be alert for the things like drivers talking on cell phones, applying makeup, reaching around in the vehicle, or reading newspapers, business papers, or maps, or those who have children in the car. Children can be very distracting, especially when they're bored or upset, causing the driver to become more distracted by their behavior. When you encounter another driver who's obviously distracted, either lay back and give him or her plenty of space, or sound your horn, flash your lights, and politely pass. On city streets or on the open highway, we need to be alert at all times for signs that another driver is distracted or not paying attention. If someone is driving dangerously enough to cause a serious hazard, it's our responsibility to report that driver to the police or highway patrol. As a professional driver, you need to be constantly on guard to make sure you are not the distracted driver. Get plenty of rest and keep appropriate meal schedules. Learn to leave personal troubles outside the cab. Manage possible distractions inside the cab. Turn devices off in situations where even a slight distraction is unacceptable. Remember to stay alert of your surroundings and the environment. Do not get lured into looking too long at something odd or interesting. Be on the alert for inattentive drivers, and when you encounter one, lay back or pass and keep your cool. Vehicle crashes often result in fatalities or life-altering serious injuries. However, when it occurs, there's actually 3 crashes involved. The first crash occurs when the car impacts either another car or a static object, such as a tree, barrier, or embankment. At that moment, a lot of damage may occur to the vehicle and the struck object. The second crash takes place a fraction of a second later. This occurs when the person occupying the vehicle hits something inside the vehicle, such as the windshield, steering wheel, or dashboard. During the second crash, the person is beginning to suffer injuries to the skin, bones, muscles, and tendons. The third crash is the most severe. This occurs within the body of the person occupying the vehicle. When organs impact the supporting structure, such as the brain with the skull, the heart with the sternum, the spleen with the ribs or spine, or the intestines with the pelvis. Debilitating injuries are now taking place and may lead to loss of life. Defensive driving is driving to save lives, time, and money in spite of the conditions around you and the actions of others. This literally puts you in the driver's seat to bring this definition into reality for our industry. You're surrounded by amateurs most of the time, and you're expected not only to operate your vehicle in a safe manner, but also to be prepared to react to the actions of others around you. A good rule to follow is to drive for 5, yourself and at least 4 others nearby. Of course, it's possible to be involved in a collision where the other driver is legally at fault. Nevertheless, the collision might still be determined preventable on your part if you could have done something to avoid it. So how do you avoid a collision? I'll give you a simple formula. First, recognize the hazard. Scan the road ahead, behind, and next to your vehicle. Watch for sudden brake lights from other vehicles. Be aware of the sound and the feel of your vehicle that you're driving. Second, know in advance what you will do if you encounter a hazard. Use the what-if process of always telling yourself what you will do if a hazard materializes in front of you. What if the car at the stop sign pulls out in front of me? What if the child on the sidewalk chases the rolling ball into the street? Where are the other cars or pedestrians? What is the road surface like? There's a lot to think about, particularly since all the factors change constantly as you're driving. Third, react immediately. What can you as the professional driver control as you travel on the streets and highways? Yourself and your vehicle, hopefully. Have you ever been so deep in thought while driving that you can't remember the last 20 or 30 minutes of driving? Practitioners of hypnosis say this is a form of self-hypnosis. You place yourself in a hypnotic state. You're awake, you function, but your mind is not focused on driving. Reaction times are greatly affected by whether the driver is alert to the need to brake. A professional driver is always in control of both mind and body while driving. They know, at a minimum, at a speed of 55 miles an hour, a semi-truck stopping distance is 100 yards or the length of the football field. So you don't want to get yourself in a situation where your reaction time, no matter how quick, can still result in a crash. I'm Tony Hugo, and thank you very much for listening.